Singapore is one of the most wealthy and luxurious cities in Asia. Visions of ultra-modern skyscrapers and futuristic gardens may occupy your mind when you picture this tiny island nation. It's a must-visit on any Southeast Asian tour, but doesn't have to be one that breaks the bank. Today I'm going to take you on a sightseeing tour around this iconic city, showcasing all of the best places to go and enjoy this cityscape. And besides my food, this day cost me absolutely nothing. And here's how it went. Good morning, guys, and welcome to Singapore. I've just arrived in Southeast Asia, and I'm going to take you guys on a 3-month tour around to a bunch of Southeast Asia. We're going to go to Malaysia, Thailand, Laos, Vietnam, and some of these places will be new countries for me, and some of them I'll be returning to and showing you guys some of my favorite places. So I was last here in Singapore about 9 years ago, so it's been almost a decade since I've explored this little country. And Singapore is this tiny little island nation on the southern point of Malaysia. There's only about 5 or 6 million people here, but it's one of the richest per capita countries here in Southeast Asia. There's a lot of really cool modern architecture in the Marina Bay Sands area, but then we have a lot of this cool old colonial architecture from the late 1800s to early 1900s. So I'm looking forward to kind of taking you guys along the Singapore River here, and then ultimately to the Marina Bay Sands to show you some of the iconic architecture that makes Singapore so famous here. So right now, I'm going to be starting on the edge of Fort Canning Park, which is just a little ways up the Singapore River here. And right on the edge of the park, we have the National Museum of Singapore, which was built in 1926. And we just have this really cool, white, stately architecture, has a little bit more of a British look and feel to it. So we're just going to be checking out the outside architecture of this building here. And then right behind the National Museum of Singapore, we go up this little hill, and it's called Fort Canning Park. This is where there was like some military bases, there's some old forts and palaces up in Fort Canning Park, and just a lot of really cool tropical vegetation, some cool trees and plants up there. So let's start by heading behind the museum here up to Fort Canning Park. So right behind the National Museum of Singapore, I've come up this little hill, and this is all part of the Fort Canning Park. And Singapore is mostly this very flat country and city, but here on Fort Canning Park, it's just this little hill that comes up above the city a little bit. There's these beautiful gardens. It really feels like this urban oasis in the middle of the city. Through some of the trees here, you can see a little bit of the skyline of Singapore, and you just have all of these beautiful gardens to go through. And this was a military fort at one point right along the marina and the river, so you have some old cannons and some old architecture from some of the military fortifications that were up here. So, and yeah, you can hear some of the birds and just this beautiful nature experience. So I'm just gonna walk around Fort Canning Park here a little bit, enjoy being in some of this tropical plantation, and then we'll head down and explore a little bit more of the city. So let's walk. I've just come down the southeast corner of the Fort Canning Park, which is a really cool place to just walk around. But now I am down here, and I'm just about at the Singapore River, which will take us down to the Marina Bay. But I just wanted to show you guys the Old Hill Police Station here, which was built in 1934, and it's known for these really colorful window shades. You have about 900 of these windows, and they're just brightly colored, and they're just all these different shades of the rainbow all up and down the building here. So I'm gonna cross the street here to show you guys the building from across the street because it looks really cool when you can see all the windows all together. So from this side of the street, right on the corner here, right along the Singapore River, you just get this really cool view of the Old Hill police station, and you can just see all the colorful windows and the full spectrum of the rainbow there. So really cool place to come for some photos, and absolutely free to just come here and get some cool shots of that. And I think the inside, there might be a museum or something in there. You can learn a little bit more of the history of Singapore and the police station there. But let's walk along the Singapore River here. We're gonna start heading towards the Marina Bay, but as we're walking along the river walk here, there's just this nice little pathway. There's a lot of cool restaurants and shops, and you're just starting to get this beautiful view of the Singapore skyline. And then as we're walking along the river here, we have some more old colonial architecture. We have some old government buildings, the Parliament House, the Supreme Court, some cool old museums and stuff that we'll be checking out on our way to the Marina Bay Sands, where we'll be seeing some of the really cool modern futuristic architecture of Singapore. So yeah, let's just walk along the Singapore River here a little bit. I've stayed to the north side of the river walk, and there's this big open area here. There's like a big cricket ground behind me, and then I just walked past the Parliament House, which is this old building where the seat of the government for Singapore is, and I passed the Supreme Court, which is this futuristic UFO looking building. And then you come to these older, more traditional colonial buildings. We have the National Gallery of Singapore here, which has this very stately dome. And then we have the Victoria Concert Hall, which is this white spired clock tower here. And all of this older, more traditional architecture is just contrasting against the very modern skyline of the downtown area of Singapore off in the distance. And then we're also getting our first look at the Marina Bay Sands Tower, which is on the other side of the bay there, which is this very futuristic and one of the most iconic buildings here in Singapore. So very cool place just to come check out some architecture. Again, there's a lot of different museums and stuff if that interests you that you can check out here, and the concert hall, and then just this beautiful walk along the river walk. After checking out this little historical quarter of Singapore right along the river here, we're gonna cross the Anderson Bridge, which is this really cool white bridge here, and you can see the Marina Bay Sands Tower off in the distance, and we'll head to Marina Bay, which is where we'll start to see some of the really cool, modern, iconic architecture of Singapore here. So I'm really excited to show you guys this. So let's head over the bridge and check out Marina Bay. Alright guys, I've just made it to the Marina Bay here, and this is the most iconic view of Singapore. We have the Marina Bay Sands Hotel behind us, which is these 3 towers and has almost like a boat-shaped look to it that kind of spans the 3 towers there, which is a very iconic hotel. Right beneath that, we have the Arts and Science Museum, which is this white shell-shaped museum right on the bay here. And then we have the Marina Bay Shopping Center beneath that. And then over here we have the Esplanade Theater, which is this kind of spiky looking building. And then right here, right where we entered the Marina Bay, we have the Merlion, which is this very iconic symbol of Singapore. It's the body of a fish and the head of a lion, and it was built in 1964, so 1 year before the independence of Singapore, and it's kind of become the icon and symbol of Singapore. Singapore means Lion City, so we have the head of that, but then the traditional city here used to be a little fishing village, so it pays homage to the roots of Singapore. And then right along here we have this promenade, right along some of the more modern downtown business district. We have these really nice skyscrapers right behind us that you can get some cool views of, but we'll get better views of the skyline as we go around to the other side of the Marina Bay here. You can see the Singapore Flyer, which is this Ferris wheel that you can go on and get some nice aerial views of the city, the skyline here. You have some boats that are just floating around the bay here, and then right here at the Merlion statue you just have tons of people getting pictures of this lion head shooting water out over the skyline over the Marina Bay. So very lively, very happening place. So let's just enjoy the Merlion a little bit, enjoy some of these views, walk along the promenade a bit, and then eventually we'll kind of work our way around the Marina Bay here to the base of the Marina Bay Sands. Cool place, checking out the promenade here and getting our first glimpses of the Marina Bay, but it's very crowded. There's so many people out on this little pier here trying to get photos of the Merlion, so you're a little pushing and shoving a little bit, but really fun place to just sit and people watch too, with just this beautiful view, and we have this nice breeze coming through here. So anyways, let's head over the Jubilee Bridge, which is this little pedestrian bridge, towards the Esplanade Theater, and continue checking out a little bit more of the Marina Bay. Just crossed the Jubilee Bridge here, which crosses over the Singapore River. So we're right at the mouth of the river here, and right behind me is the Esplanade Theater, and there are these two very rounded domes that have this aardvark style design of these window shades that create these like little jagged triangles all above it, and it has just this very interesting, beautiful architecture. And there's two of these theaters that were completed in 2002. One has the capacity for about 2,000 people, and the other has the capacity for about 1,600 people. So there's a lot of different like musicals and shows that go on in these theaters here right on the bay. And then right along the theaters, you have this other promenade that takes you right along the bay, all the way to the Marina Bay Sands. And as we're walking along the promenade here, we're just getting this better view of the skyline as we remove ourselves from the city a little bit. So we're just gonna get better and better views of that, and we're gonna get closer and closer views of the Marina Bay Sands towers. So let's kind of stroll along this area right in front of these theaters and enjoy some of the views of the Marina Bay. I've just walked all the way down the Esplanade there and around this little construction project, and I'm now on the Helix pedestrian bridge, which is a bridge that takes you over the Singapore River right to the base of the Marina Bay Sands shopping district and the Art and Science Museum. But as you're going over this helix DNA-shaped bridge, there's just this really cool views of the Singapore skyline off on the distance. There's a couple of these little viewing platforms you can go out to get some nice views of the skyline, and then you're looking straight up at the boat shape of the Marina Bay Sands Hotel and Shopping District, as well as the Art and Science Center. So it's this really cool view walking right through this little helix-shaped bridge here. I've just come out onto one of the little viewing platforms right off the Helix Bridge here. And there's this really cool view where you can see the twisting of the Helix Bridge and the Marina Bay Sands Tower up above. And then looking out this way, you can see the Art and Science Museum with a little bit of the skyline of Singapore off in the distance. And there's about 3 of these different viewing platforms that you can see along the Helix Bridge here. So let's keep walking across to the Marina Bay Sands shopping. Alright guys, I've just crossed the whole Helix Bridge here, and it takes you right to the entrance of the Marina Bay Sands Shopping Center, and then you're right beneath the Art and Science Museum and right beneath the Marina Bay Sands Hotel here, which is just beautiful looking up at that floating boat shape there. So I'm just gonna head into the shopping center a little bit here, and just to get some air conditioning. I don't know if you can tell, but it's really hot and humid here today. And so let's kind of head into the shopping center here, and then we'll head out and show you a little bit more of the promenade right in front of the Marina Bay Sands Shopping Center. So that is a quick look into the Marina Bay's shopping area. I'll probably want to come in and show you guys a couple more things in here. There's like a little canal where you can do Venice boats. There's a couple of these shops that take you out into the bay, which are pretty cool. But let's head back out to the outdoor promenade and show you guys the Arts and Science Museum and some of the views looking back at the Singapore skyline out here. And then we'll head back in a little bit. I've just come outside out of the shopping center here, and right in front of the shopping center and in front of the Marina Bay Sands Tower, we just have this really nice long promenade with beautiful palm trees and just really nice walkways that are right along the water here. We're right along the Marina Bay. We can look out and see a really cool view of the skyscraper of Singapore. We can see the downtown business district, all of these skyscrapers over there. And then right in front of the shopping center, we also have the Art and Science Museum, which you get better views of it from the other side of the Marina Bay there. But here we're right beneath it, and I've been calling it a shell all day, but I just looked it up, and the architecture is inspired by a lotus flower, so it has all of these petals unfurling from the middle here, and it's just this beautiful, unique, modern-looking piece of architecture, and it's right next to the Marina Bay Sands Tower here. So you just have these very modern, futuristic-looking buildings right along the water, and then right beneath the Art and Science Museum, you actually have a lotus pond. So there's all of these lotus flowers and lily pads, and you just can get this nice reflection off of the water of the skyline off in the distance. So really cool place to walk along. And again, you could go into the Art and Science Museum. It's about $30 or $40, but right now I'll just be walking along the promenade a little bit. And as we're walking along, we have a couple of these shops from the shopping center that come under the promenade and jut out into the bay. We have the Louis Vuitton, which has diamond-shaped glass buildings coming out, and then we have the Apple building, which is this circular dome that comes out into the bay. And so both of those are kind of cool, unique pieces of architecture here along the Marina Bay. So yeah, let's enjoy the outdoor promenade, and then eventually we'll head back into the shopping center. Alright guys, you have to go down to the basement level of the shopping center, and then you go through this little tunnel to the Apple store, which is this big like circular dome just out on the middle of the bay here. And it's just this really cool, you have this nice open glass and you can just look right out these windows here. You're looking right at the Singapore skyline, and there's all these little booths where you can try out some of the phones and some of the laptops, but just one of the coolest retail experiences I've had just out here in this little Apple dome in the bay. One to go to a lot of shopping malls when I'm traveling. They all kind of feel the same, but this one here, Marina Bay Sands Shopping Center, is just one of the nicest shopping centers I've been to. Just so big, open. You have these amazing glass windows, 3 stories. Again, there's a little canal, and there's just so many of these luxury stores and shops, and then the Apple store and Louis Vuitton store that go out into the water. And then you have this promenade right here along the bay, and it's actually a really cool shopping center to check out. But let's move on with our tour of Singapore. And inside the shopping center here, there's this really like nondescript elevator that takes you up to the roof of the shopping center and takes you over to the Marina Bay Sands Hotel, and then eventually over to the Gardens of the Bay, which is this really cool futuristic garden where you see some really cool plantations. So let's head through the shopping center and over to Gardens of the Bay. I've just come up to the roof of the Marina Bay Sands Shopping Plaza, and we're right beneath the Marina Sands Bay Hotel, which is this futuristic structure behind me. We've been able to see it all around the Marina Bay Sands, but it's just one of the most iconic buildings, and it's mostly a hotel, resort, and casino. And so you have these 3 different towers here, and then you have this boat-shaped building on the top. I've never been up there, but I'm sure there's like beautiful views looking over the Marina Bay Harbor. And then I know there's like an infinity pool, some bars. I've seen people doing yoga up there, and so I'm sure it's just really cool. But I've heard it's like almost $700 to $1,000 a night to stay in this hotel. So very, very expensive, very luxury, and I don't know if I'll ever be able to stay in something like that. But very cool views of it, like right here, right beneath it. You're just looking straight up at it. And then, so from the rooftop of the Marina Bay Sands Shopping Center, there's a couple of these little skyways, and one of them is going to take us through the hotel and casino, and we're gonna get to see a little bit of the inside of the Marina Bay Sands Hotel, which should be pretty cool. And then we're gonna cut through there to head to the Gardens by the Bay. So yeah, let's head across these skyways. Up on the sky bridge here that takes you out of the Marina Bay Sands Hotel, there's a little viewpoint overlooking the super tree grove, so you can see a couple of the tall trees that are above the forest here, and you can see the little platform that people can walk around from tree to tree. But from here we're going to take a little escalator down, and then we can just walk over into the super tree grove and check out the trees from the jungle floor. So right in the middle of the Gardens by the Bay, and one of the main attractions here is this super tree grove, which are these very futuristic looking spiring trees that tower about 16 stories, and they're these vertical gardens. So all up and down these super tree groves, you have all these different types of plants and gardens and fauna that just reach all the way up to the top of these super trees here. And then up above some of the super tree grove, you have this skyway, and for about $12, $13 you can go up onto the skyway here and walk all around these super trees. And then the middle tree here is the tallest, and there's an observatory up there that you can go up for another 15 or 20 bucks, and you'll just get some really nice views overlooking the super tree grove, and you'll be able to see some of the Singapore skyline and the Marina Bay Sands Hotel tower from up there. But down here, there's just so many of these really cool gardens. It's about 100 acres of just walking around through all these gardens. There's a bunch of ponds and fountains, and just a very peaceful, very cool place to just chill, get into the shade of some of these trees here, and just walk around this futuristic garden and just enjoy the sound of some of the birds and the rustling of the trees. And at night, the trees light up. They have all of these different lights. There's a bit of like a light and a sound show that glows throughout this futuristic forest here. So a really cool thing to check out. And there's a light show at 7:45 and 8:45. So if I stick around for that, I'll show you guys at the end of the vlog here. But yeah, very cool place to just walk around. And in the Gardens by the Bay here, there's a couple other little places you can check out. All the way towards the edge near the Singapore River, there is the cloud forest and these big geodomes, and you have a bit of like a rainforest experience that you can go in over there. So anyways, I'm just gonna walk around the gardens here a little bit, enjoy some of the views, enjoy the unique landscape of these vertical gardens here, and then just enjoy some of the really cool fauna throughout this garden. So yeah, let's walk around and check out these super trees. I've just finished walking around the super tree grove there, and that was just really cool. It feels like a futuristic forest. It almost feels like you're in the set of Avatar or something, with this electric forest feel, but then you have these vertical gardens and just all these beautiful plants going up and down. And then besides the super tree grove, there's all of these gardens you can walk through, and you can just really get lost and find your own little quiet gardens to walk around and explore. So now I've come to the edge of the Gardens by the Bay, and there's these two giant glass domes. It's the Flower Dome and the Cloud Forest, and these are two arboretum areas that you can go inside, although it costs about $30 each to enter, but you get this simulated rainforest in there. But you can just walk along to the edge of the park here, and right along the domes, you're right along the edge of the Singapore River. You have this beautiful walkway right along the water with all these beautiful gardens, and just a really cool place to check out. And this pathway here, there's a lot of like bikers and walkers, and this will eventually take you back to the front of the Marina Bay Sands area. So I'm just gonna kind of walk along the edge of the Cloud Forest domes here and enjoy being right along these really modern futuristic domes and beautiful gardens right along the river. I've just walked along the Singapore River a little bit here, and I'm right beneath the Marina Bay Sands Hotel Tower again. And that about concludes my 24 hours walking around Singapore, and I didn't spend any money. It was a completely free day, yet I got to do so much cool sightseeing. There's so many cool things that you can see just by walking around the Marina Bay, walking along the river. There's so much cool architecture, all of these really cool gardens, and besides the food and drink that I had today, it was a completely free day. Didn't spend a single dollar. And yeah, just a really fun way to enjoy the day, and just some of the most iconic architecture in the world. And it's just a really cool city to walk around, and it's just so multicultural, very affluent. You have a lot of really nice shops and a lot of really cool buildings to see, a lot of fantastic hotels and really cool gardens. And yeah, just a really cool way to start my trip around Southeast Asia here. And of course, there's so much more you can do in Singapore besides just the Singapore River and the Marina Bay Sands. And I think tomorrow or the next day, I'm gonna film another video showing you a couple of the other cool neighborhoods that you can check out in Singapore, where you can get a little bit more deeper into the culture and see some cool temples and some cool restaurants, some food courts, food halls and everything. So if you guys have more than one day to check out Singapore and you want to check out that video, I'll be showing you guys a little bit of Little India and Chinatown, and showing you some of the other cool temples and local streets that you can check out here in Singapore. So anyways, I'll show you guys the Super Tree Grove at night, and then again, maybe I'll see you tomorrow or the next day when I show you a little bit more of the things to do in Singapore. But that'll be another video and another time. So thanks for joining me here, and I'll see you guys next time in Singapore.